Alright, here we go again, talking about World of Warcraft, the things that I leave behind and then come back to talk about. At least I'm not coming back to the game, but anyways, Bellular has DragonFlight actually sold poorly the state of WoW in 2023. The state is shit. A lot of people already left Mythic Plus because Mythic Plus is dog shit and it hasn't been innovated. I mean, I talked about it in the different video. DragonFlight, again, the honeymoon period is over and people realize it's the same shit game that it was in Shadowlands with less features.
Welcome back. Alright, here's the deal. Blizzard haven't released anything, but quite a few of us are beginning to suspect that DragonFlight may not have sold as well as, say, Shadowlands. But this time, I'm actually not particularly worried about that. And it might sound a little insane, but that's actually where I'm at after taking in all that I can see online. Now, the next time that we'll see some hard data is, of course, the next Activision Blizzard earnings call. But even that will be rather vague. Now, I've already got our team working on a statistical analysis of Season 1 participation as compared to the past. We actually can pretty much go apples to apples with some launch timings of Shadowlands, which is great for the data. But while the team's working away at that, let's have a chat about what's going on. And today's sponsor.
What's going on with the quality?
Us and our newly revamped Patreon loot, which for the first time ever has got a journal. Yeah, we actually have a custom notebook for this month, which I'm super hype about. We've actually also revamped quite a lot of what we're doing with the loot. So in addition to the notebook, you'll also get this beautiful lantern pin. I cannot wait to get these in. They look so goddamn awesome.
I like that he's doing all of this cool stuff on Patreon. But when I think about practically, even if, let's say, I was a Patreon, where the fuck would I put any of this shit? Like all the pins he would sell, it's like, what would I do with the pins? All these things, I guess they're posters. It's like, bro, like, it's like, you know, it's like, if you're a patron for a long time, you have way too much shit from Bellular that takes way too much room. It's like, do you just put it on for a month and then throw it out? Like, I don't get it. But overall, though, it's pretty cool that he's doing actual fucking materialistic things for his patrons.
Awesome. So the lantern pin and some really cool art that is part of a special project. But yes, quite a lot of new things, and they will be, they'll be on our Patreon. So if you subscribe on our loot tier through the end of this month, you will get that, in addition to a bunch of other goodies too. You can check it out down below. Thanks for supporting us, and let's get to the video.
Okay, why am I suspicious? I mean, surely, given this channel's existence, I should really be a lot more on the side of, hey everyone, the game's going great, jump aboard, use my creator code. We don't have those, but piece of evidence, or suspicion number one, is the 30-day free game time promotion. Yeah, it was pretty simple actually. Quite shortly after the expansion came out, they bundled in a free month of game time.
Well, that just sucks because I had to waste fucking my BNet balance for the game and then BNet balance for 2 months of game time. You guys are assholes for adding this, just saying.
With it for new purchases.
It's like extra, like, I was like, what, extra 20 bucks or some shit like that? Basically on my off my token. Considering I quit on the first month, so having those 30 days would be like, good, then I just buy the expansion. I didn't have to spend money. Fuck, that would be actually like extra 40 BNet balance. God damn.
Certainly felt a little bit rough for some people who just missed out on that, but obviously it is them trying to sweeten the deal. It's an incentive to get people to come back to the game. Now, this idea of doing a sale very quickly after a game comes out or some sort of promotion is often kind of seen with games that struggle a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Is getting that, critical mass of users in your game. I mean, even take some of the more high-profile games that have had issues after launch, such as, say, the Battlefield franchise, where they've had decently deep discounts fairly shortly after launch. So, seeing this game time promotion, combined with one other thing, well, two other things, certainly had people a bit suspicious. And another one of those things is the DragonFlight free trial. Now, This is actually something that I think is a really, really good idea. Basically, the free trial would let you start a Drakthir Evoker, take them through their intro zone, and through to the end of the Waking Shores at level 63. Pretty great. I'd say that maybe the Evoker's not the biggest draw for this expansion in the way that the Death Knight or the Demon Hunter perhaps were in the past, but I think it's a pretty good way to get people a slice of modern-ish World of Warcraft.
The Death Knight and Demon Hunter were such a big deal because they have so much lore implication and so much story behind, just like their starting zone had so much story regarding Illidan and Arthas, right? So it's like, yeah, you can't even compare. Like, I'm thinking they can release anything that would compare to any of to those two by far.
Pretty quick. So a really good idea, but also something that to a lot of people just felt like, oh, why are you doing this promotion? Now, I would say that surely pulling off something like this would require a decent degree of...
To be fair, this shouldn't be a promotion. This should be standard practice when they release an expansion to give 30-day game time. This shouldn't be a promotion at all. Like, it's kind of absurd. Game time doesn't cost them really anything.
Planning internally. So it may actually be the case that they thought made the most sense to have the game come out. Maybe they felt quite strongly about the quality of the game, which I think would be fair enough. And then maybe they put this free trial in to try to get us players who are, the vanguard, who generally have had a good impression, be able to say to our friends, hey, you know what, this expansion's actually really good. Oh, and by the way, look, they just announced the free trial. It's even better.
Honestly, it's like, why don't you give the people who are playing the 30 days? Sorry. I'm being a bit egotistical here for sure, but, it feels... There wasn't an announcement about this, it just came out of nowhere. If they announced it, many people would wait. I just feel like, cheated out of a good deal because of this,
You could see how that would make a degree of sense. Now, the other thing that's kind of a piece of evidence of maybe not the best sales in the universe is no big sales announcement post-launch. Yeah, pretty simple. Whenever Shadowlands came out, Blizzard quite rapidly said that it had sold through 3.7 million copies. Now, that's not day one sales, of course. That is day one sales and pre-orders combined into one thing. They haven't done that this time round. Generally, the way that it goes in corporate communications is that if they bring your attention to something, that means it's really good. If they actively don't bring your attention to something, then, well, yeah, maybe they don't want you to think about that as much.
But also, I mean, let's be real. After the... whatever you want to call Shadowlands, I mean, are you surprised it's not going to sell and people being on the fence, right? It's like...
Another thing then that I should mention is lower Twitch viewers. Now this is one of those things that we can actually use. Because
there's nothing to view.
People actually having interest in the game. Now, there's a difference between Shadowlands and now. There's actually a few. As an example, the splitting out of the Twitch categories. Because yes, Classic is now a different Twitch category to
they removed.
So that is one thing.
Thought they changed it back.
Actually look at the number of channels streaming World of Warcraft from these essentially like the little launch period between Shadowlands and between this expansion, you do find a similar amount of views, but it is lower for DragonFlight, and you find half the channels streaming the game, which certainly is a little bit spooky and a bit of a factor there. Undoubtedly can be the splitting out of categories on Twitch, but overall, when you combine that with...
Not gonna lie, I'm still surprised people even watch Race the World first. It's just one of the... aside from like learning the raid as like from like an outside view, I really don't see what's so interesting about watching people do the same raid, the same boss, hours on end. I don't understand. Then again, don't understand a lot of Twitch viewers, so...
With all of the promotions that they've been running, other little tidbits like them recently lowering the recruit a friend threshold to be it even includes an account which actually does have an active character. It's just now it's 1 year of lapsed time is now what somebody needs to be eligible. So it's just felt like if they've had a lever to drum up a little bit more interest in the game, they have pulled that lever. Then, This is something we did in our New Year stream. Me and Matt just compared some very simple numbers, basically like how many first like 10 days-ish kills of the first boss of Vault of the Incarnates have we had versus, say, the Nathria first boss, Shriekwing. And the numbers there definitely surprised us in how they really did not look particularly good for DragonFlight, even though I think we would contend that it's a really quite excellent raid in an expansion that has started off excellently, but it just made us think, God damn, that damage is done. So let's talk about that damage. I think the primary reason, and I think this lines up with
I don't think it's an excellent raid either.
is that the perfect storm occurs.
I really like... There's nothing like... There's nothing unique about this raid. There's nothing appealing about this raid. You don't have a Sire Denathrius pulling you in. Fucking Razagath is like one of the dumbest chicken birds out there. Literally inviting you to come and defeat her. It's like instead of just going ahead and like just starting the ritual without us knowing, it would have been way better. She's always there looming, doing absolutely nothing, barely posing a threat, and then flies off. What the fuck is this boss? Meanwhile, yeah, Sire Denathrius being one of the coolest fucking characters they ever added, and then we just fucking killed him one. Also, like, the whole, like, aesthetic of Castle Nathria and all that stuff was just way more interesting, right? I saw, like, the first boss, I wouldn't say that he was interesting, but, like, the whole vampires and, like, the council fight, just, like, the thought of what it is, you know, it's, like, was interesting, was, like, a little dance, because, like, you know, all the aesthetic of, like, being noble and all that shit was really cool. Having Kael'thas there, even though the fight was dumb as fuck, it was a cool fight. It's like cool lore tidbit, not that the fight was cool. Like, there's so many things good about Castle Nathria, just like from an outside perspective, like without even going in, you're like, man, I kind of want to go and check it out. There's nothing like that in DragonFlight. The raid is just like a bunch of elementals, like who gives a shit?
Heard for Blizzard. I do think that in terms of its overall, you could say, sort of design quality, the patch 9.1 is perhaps...
Also, not worth it loot-wise, really. You know,
perhaps its worst patch ever. Now, you may look at many other patches and think, oh, that didn't really add a lot of content. Surely the Twitter patch is worse. But no, I think if you take a look at patch 9.1 and Korthia, what was being asked of players, the broad design, that is essentially a period where people saw,
Runes of Domination.
There's no artifact power anymore. But then a whole host of new problems came in to eat up that space whenever Shadowlands came out, right? That also happened at the same time that, well, you know, there was many dramas that even went into the launch of Shadowlands. And then we see that their first major piece of follow-up content does in fact still manage to have a lot of designs that very much do feel against the direction of player feedback. At the same time as this.
And again, instead of WoW actually listen to the feedback, so wow, what the hell did I just say? Instead of WoW actually listening to the feedback, okay, what they did was in DragonFlight, they said, you know what? We don't want to give players what they want, but players don't want to accept what we give them. We're just going to not do any of it. And then you got DragonFlight, a featureless world, a featureless expansion. You're just going to do your Mythic Plus because you seem to be enjoying it. Like, just the best loot, the best way to get loot in WoW is Mythic Plus by far, and it still sucks. Like, it is the most efficient way to get loot, but it's still a very shitty way to get loot. That's how bad Mythic Plus looting is. Okay, then you have the raid, then you have PvP. PvP is the only thing, in my opinion, in DragonFlight that has seen improvements because of the item scaling, the level scaling. That's it. World content, give me a break. Okay, the first 2 weeks were cool and all, don't get me wrong, but it's like, give me a break. World content, really, anyone who plays at an item level above 390 doesn't give a shit about world content at that point.
The dam bursts in terms of the California Department of Fair, Employment and Housing's lawsuit against Activision.
I don't think many people
Blizzard.
cared about this as much as they keep saying it.
Can you imagine a worse lining up of things? To your average player who maybe hears a bit of the news.
I'm sorry, I really don't think a lot of people cared about this sexual harassment. They cared about because the game was shit. The game was good, they would be like, oh, well, yeah, this sucks, but I'm still gonna play. People quitting over this is like the last, you know, nail in the coffin, whatever. It's like, yeah, it's a massive coffin. This is like the last nail out of 100 nails. Like, it's whatever. It's just another reason. But this is like not nowhere near being the biggest reason why people quit.
Comes out, it's pretty lame. They go back to the maw. It just doesn't feel great to them. They then see all of these terrible things that have happened, some recent, some historic, at the company, and you know, then they leave. Certainly, if I was to go by the anecdotal sort of side of things, that is when my entire guild stopped playing the game. So I think that was a real peak. And at the end of the day, in a large company like this, you got to look at when do they change? When do they change?
I think Asmongold said it best. A lot of people who quit WoW and Shadowlands didn't become like just Final Fantasy players. They just went and started exploring other MMORPGs, and they realize how bad the state of WoW is. If you just played WoW, you do not see this. You do not understand how bad WoW is compared to almost any other MMO out there. And it's like when you try to explain to people that you're just a WoW hater. You just don't understand that spending an hour on a Mythic Plus and getting no loot, okay, I'm exaggerating, 30 to 40 minutes, okay, and getting no reward for it doesn't feel good. Knowing that you'll probably not get a reward for it, knowing that the chance of you getting a reward is like 5% per run on the targeted Mythic Plus, which is super boring to do, right? It's not that you get a token, you can go buy the gear you want. You know, you just have to actually try and get the item that you're looking for to then, after you got it, try and get it from your vault, because that's where the actual item level comes from. It's just not good game design, and people just don't understand because they're not playing anything else aside from World of Warcraft. If you played Guild Wars 2, if you played ESO, if you played Final Fantasy 14, like basically the other major MMORPGs, even Albion, I believe, has a better loot system. Almost any MMORPG you're gonna play right now has a way better loot system, just because you can target what you want. The reason WoW PvP right now is in a good state is because you can target what you want. I don't like that it's time gated, but you can get the items you are looking for.
Change and what motivated that change. And I think it's very interesting that patch 9.1.5 is the patch where they decided to start making the game a hell of a lot more friendly. And certainly after the fact, they keep on in interviews talking about 9.1.5 being the time where they changed their design directions.
No, that you didn't.
Quite evidently early on enough in the DragonFlight development process to work in a bunch of that feedback to the game. And I think that's a large part of why DragonFlight is really a far more player-friendly expansion than what
9.1.5 wasn't them changing direction. 9.1.5 was when they gave up. That's the difference. They didn't change direction. They just said, fuck it. We're done with this shit. Instead of actually fixing the problem, they just said, you know what? It's not worth the effort to try and fix it and make this a playable experience. We're just going to say none of this experience anymore. So they removed the feature of being able to grow your character throughout the expansion.
We've been used to. But ultimately, I think we have to expect that numbers going quite bad are what suddenly motivated that change.
100%. Everyone knows.
Of 9.1.5.
The ripcord?
For a lot of people, then
Ripcord.
You know? They broke their WoW habit, and it's gone. The idea of goodwill being burnt as well. I think that is a fairly massive thing. You know,
in my opinion, like even the goodwill is not even that. There's no goodwill even left to give because they didn't change anything that is significant. They're still stuck about their ways on putting loot on a pedestal where they make the loot irrelevant on the next patch. They're still stuck on their ways on time gating bullshit when there's absolutely no point to time gate it. There's absolutely no end game content aside from the big three. There's and you know what? Forget even end game content. There's no fun things to do in the game. What's like, questing for rep? There's no game inside of World of Warcraft. There are systems. That's all there is. There's no game.
WoW has had rough expansions, it's had bad times, but it's never had two in a row. Not in a way as protracted as this time. And that's especially the case when we're in an environment where there's really viable competition because there's so many damn games.
Yep.
Another thing, and this is if I was to talk a little bit more to the modern times, for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like the Warcraft that they know, right? They see the cinematic trailer, and rather than some extremely high muscle mass orc who's full of sweat doing some big scream with an axe, the sort of, hey, I like beer and heavy metal vibe, perhaps. Kind of merging in some of the Frank Frazetta style stuff with, obviously he's pretty large inspiration for Samwise and Chris Metzen and all that stuff way back in the day. That's maybe the sort of vibe feeling that got them into the Warcraft universe. And for a lot of those people, in the same way that Shadowlands didn't feel like that because of what Shadowlands' lore was like, DragonFlight, I think, is significantly more successful in its lore, and lots of it really is diving into the Warcraft mythos that it really is in a way that I'm actually enjoying tremendously thus far. But for a lot of...
Here's the other thing. We're gonna talk about this, why it doesn't feel like Warcraft. How many of the dragons that you meet, probably aside from like the Black Dragonflight, and even the Black Dragonflight, I can say that's not really it. How many of them really feel like they're fucking dragons? A lot of them feel like they're just fucking cartoon characters. Nosdormu, in a sense, kind of feels like maybe like this wise old man kind of thing. Caligos feels like a child in all of his fucking conversations. Right? Alexstrasza is like, do I have big mom energy? Are you fucking serious, man? This is a fucking dragon we're talking about. Do I have big mom energy? They're way too emotional. They're like immature. Probably like as immature as like the people writing the story, right? Rathian is kind of cool, but he's an idiot. You know, it feels like he degenerated in his like IQ over the expansions instead of getting smarter. I feel like the smartest Rathian ever was Mop, even though he made a lot of bad and stupid decisions. The way he made those decisions, like at least like the thought process, seemed intellectual. Obviously, he was a young dragon, so he would make mistakes. But like he was smarter there than he was in BFA, right? And then in BFA, he was smarter than he is in Dragonflight. Like he feels like a very cocky, someone who never learned his lesson, who's extremely immature and didn't understand anything from his past mistakes, instead of somebody who grew, right? I can't speak about the other Black Dragons because I don't really know them very well. Like Sibelian, I don't know him. But like looking at Sibelian, he feels like dangerous. Like you don't really want to mess with this guy, you know? Like he will fuck you up. You know, he feels like a black dragon. Okay? All the other dragons, aside from like Nosdormu in a sense, feel like they're cartoon characters. Like, you know, nothing here feels like dragons, right? And even like the fucking the enemy, like the Razagath. Bro, like what is she, 5 years old? It's like, you failed to get the Titan's gift. Well then, now I'm gonna resurrect my, my brethren. Like, I'm gonna release them from jail. It's like, oh no, we must stop her from listening. Why are you even telling us that you're gonna release them? We should be finding it out on our own by investigating. Why are you telling us that you're doing this? All you're asking is for trouble, for us to come and stop you. Like, this is fucking idiot. Like, you know.
For people, the marketing and public positioning of this expansion did not exactly reflect the core part of Warcraft that they have as a bit of a common touch point. Yes, Warlords of Draenor is a weird time travel expansion, but it was full Warcraft with its, not to say that just orcs, but its tone, right? Whereas you look at this, and we are diving really with the dragons more into material that has been expanded upon in like additional universe sort of places that most people aren't really aware of. Yes, people know there are dragons in Warcraft, but I really don't think the dragons have been the reason why people have came to World of Warcraft. Now, I think this expansion is presenting a good reason for that to change and portraying them in a way that I'm really enjoying, but for a lot of people, that initial feel wasn't there. And that means that it's all going to come down to the wait and see effect. And this is where I bring up Mists of Pandaria. Mop's launch was kind of rough, right? I mean, there was the whole, you know, oh, so many daily quests, what will I do? There was that whole thing. And there was also people who looked at it, rolled their eyes, and decided they wanted to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
you take a look at the
fucking
subscription
pandas.
numbers for Mr. Pandaria, and what you actually find is that
Retention
in the
was
period
decent.
of time after patch 5.2, when you got 5.3, you've also got 5.4, the numbers actually bump up a little bit. And that was a time where the story was really pretty great. I mean, could you not watch the patch 5.4 launch trailer and think, fuck yeah, this looks like a...
Wait. Cataclysm also had good retention overall. And yeah, you have the drop here, but then it's like, it's pretty much flat. Yeah, the drop here, but bounces back. I'm assuming this is like same raid for too long, so, you know, people just stopped playing and then they came back. Wrath has massive retention, with obviously ICC being... Actually, no, this is not even ICC. This is like pre-Cataclysm. Massive growth and all the way up to Wrath. It's like, this is the most interesting part, because this is like, people are getting more and more into it, and everyone who plays it stays, and they bring their friends, and it's like the story's accumulating all the way to like the peak, which is ICC, and then obviously the drop happens later on. But either way, like, yeah, there's like a downward spiral going on, but it's like the retention here is decent.
Did you not watch the patch? I think even the people who may be a little bit confused about the inclusion of the Pandaren in this universe, they probably will have seen that patch trailer and thought, oh, hey, that's Warcraft, man. I want some of that. So I do feel that for quite a few people, there's this wait and see effect. Some of that is about how much does this expansion really resonate with the Warcraft of old. I would say in some ways yes, in some ways no, and I want to see how they escalate things and if they can pull together a satisfying escalation of stakes. They certainly were not able to in Shadowlands, but when I look at the setup that they've actually woven here, I do think that they've got a pretty good chance. On the other side, of course, is waiting to see if the game mechanics are good. And thus far, I think we really have seen that they are.
They're not.
Fundamentally, I think that is the
Not
reason
as the
why
Paladin.
people have not, perhaps, came back to Warcraft in as super engaged a way as they had in the past, where, I mean, hey, look at the
The reason I'm saying they're not, it's not that they're bad, but they're nothing, like, I'm playing the same character I played in Legion plus Divine Toll, basically. You know, like, there's been no evolution of the classes at all. I played the Fury, it's almost the same as all the Furies I've played since Legion, right? I played Fury like a little bit, nothing like intense. In Legion, in BFA, I tried a bit, and Shadowlands I played a bit, and it's like, I feel like I'm playing the exact same fucking class. Right, it's like, oh, just do more damage, do less damage, I'm broken, I'm not broken, but it's like, it feels like I'm playing the exact same class. Hasn't been any innovation on many of the classes. I think Demonology is kind of okay, but like, a lot of the classes just feel like they're the same. Demon Hunter, I don't even know how they managed to like split their tree so massively, because they have like 3 abilities. But like Demon Hunters feels the exact same, plays the exact same since Legion. Since BFA, I would say, but yeah.
Look at those subscribers spike way, way, way up. But the thing is that versus the past, as I said, WoW has died many times before, but it's never died twice in a row. And that's the bit that's got us. We've had 2 dud expansions, a bunch of meta context around that's been rough, that combines in with an extremely competitive game sector where there are way, way, way more games out there, and also there's the effect of new media, right? Versus 2010, when it was just Total Biscuit, Jesse Cox, and a few people doing YouTube videos that were, I mean, in so many ways a lot more simple than the whole ecosystem that exists now. Now we're in a stage where information spreads fast. Obviously, strident opinion tends to spread the fastest. And you then have the strange thing, is that updates to stories get far less coverage, right? So let's just say we do a video, let's just say there's a terrible issue in the game a few months ago, right? We do a video saying, hello everyone, this is a very large issue, we think it should be fixed. And let's say it does get fixed 3 months down the line, and then we make the other video saying, great news everyone, the thing's fixed, look at that, they listened, aren't we all happy? That latter video will get a hell of a lot less viewership, it'll get less engagement. And this is something that is an inherent...
But that's not because people want to know that, like, I understand what he's saying, but the reason the second video will get less engagement is because the people who have heard about this issue and other multiple issues in parallel probably don't consume your content anymore, and they don't care if something has been fixed, because they're like, it's not that they don't consume your content, but it's like, oh, this has been fixed, cool, I don't care. You know, it's like it's too late at this point, especially if it's 3 months down the line. All of these issues, a lot of the issues that are like obvious as soon as you play the game, just prove that the devs are not playing the game and they don't care about the game, so why should the player care about the game? That's really what all these issues come down to, right? It's literally like, why would I start playing DragonFlight at the beginning of the expansion? Why not just wait until the expansion is fixed towards the end and play then? That's literally what WoW is teaching you to do. Every time they launch an expansion, it's shit for like more than half of it, and then they fix it, and then you can play it because it's more accessible, it's more alt friendly. A lot of the bugs have been fixed, a lot of the balances have been made. It's like, why would I ever bother playing an expansion on launch aside from like the FOMO of like the, you know, the new expansion launch, wow, honeymoon period and all that shit. Like, there's no reason.
Problem with modern media, because while you, maybe if you watch like everything we do, or if you create content yourself, you have in your head the complete picture of what you've made and what you think. But people, broadly speaking, will only really know what your opinion is via an extrapolation of the last time they engaged with it, which may not actually be up to date with that person's opinion.
This video, by the way, dog shit video. Get Gear 372. You either buy it with the professions, though you can't really buy it because you would need the matrix. Like, good luck getting the matrices. And then 372 is Mythic Zero. So get geared for 372! 2 Mythic Zeros! Wow, shit, really? It's like, oh, farm this world content, all of these rares on a fucking rotation, all day, every day.
Of course, this happens with content creators. It happens with news
Not that the
sites.
video was bad, but it's like the content itself is bad. It's like how to do it, you know?
It happens with person-to-person conversations. But all of it, I think, is getting a lot faster as the internet gets more and more and more engaging. And I do think that's led to a interesting position where they really, really do have their work cut out for them to kind
Oh, you mean there's a standard that they have to abide by when they release a fucking expansion and has to actually fucking function properly? Yeah, I guess they kind of do. Yeah, I guess they really have the work cut out for them to actually deliver a fucking functional good game. Yeah.
kind of re-penetrate that side who's just completely bounced off the game. Now, when I think about moving forward, though, and I try to think, well, okay, the numbers are a bit lower, but why am I not worried about that? Because I'm not really that worried about that. Yes, it's clearly led to less views in videos and all of those things, and that can be a little bit stressful. But ultimately, when I'm thinking about decisions that are, you know, to the tune of what is the team going to do, what are we going to cover, what are we going to make, the fact that we have that roadmap is a fairly major part in my decision.
People are saying this roadmap, look at this, so much content is coming. All of this is coming this year? Look at all this content. Okay. Trading post. The currency you will get from doing the content you're already doing, and this just lets you buy some cosmetics. Wow. Content. Okay, sure. Problem is tomorrow, I don't think anyone knows what this is. They haven't been in discussion. Maybe like a mini quest chain. I don't know. Wide and great transmogs. This is not a patch feature. This is something that should just happen in a hotfix. Whatever. Return to Forbidden Reach. Some story stuff for the Reactor. Maybe to other classes as well. Whatever. Human Orc Heritage. I mean, something for humans and orcs to do, but okay. Holiday updates, not content. So basically all of this. Maybe a couple of quests here for a story. But all of this, not really content for the majority of players who are just doing endgame and shit like that. Or maybe like a few hours of maybe entertaining lore if it's going to be entertaining. Then Season 2, patch 10.1. standard, extremely standard. User interface improvement, that's not a patch feature, I'm sorry. It's like a hotfix. Professions update, I mean, obviously higher item level, new mythic plus dungeon pool, whatever, standard. New PvP, new raid, new zone, standard. Mega dungeon, standard. World events, don't know what this is, but again, probably more stuff that people who are not doing endgame stuff can do for gear, for catch up maybe, I don't know. Content system updates, I don't even know what this is. Hopefully this would help alts, but then if it does help alts in the sense of like farming certain materials to buy higher item level gear to get into endgame faster, this would be great. Why is this here and not like fucking here, you know, like at the beginning of the game so people can actually play their alts right away? Story and quest, they don't even know what this is yet. Holiday refresh, they don't know what this is yet. Content system updates, again, basically they don't know what these are yet. Like these, like the content system updates, they don't know what this is yet, or at least they're not telling us. Like they're not sure what they'll manage to do. And then obviously season 3, standard patch. So basically this roadmap doesn't really tell you anything useful. It just tells you we have a roadmap, but it's the same thing as you would get without the roadmap. So just like, we're just more transparent, guys. We're just the most transparent Blizzard we've ever been. Oh my god, transparency is so fucking good. Transparency is fucking content. No, it's not.
Making. I look at the roadmap and I think, okay, cool. They have a plan. I saw a lot of people being like, oh, it's only, you know, that's only, those patches, half of them are tiny. Well, I'd say, I mean, compare those to Legion 0.5 patches and they actually look pretty damn good.
But again, like, you're comparing things in like the dumbest bubble. It's like, oh, well, compare this to like Shadowlands. Like, okay, well, how low do you want to set the bar? Compare this to classic WoW. Like what are we comparing? Compare it to fucking current games and their updates, and tell me this is anywhere near as competitive to other roadmaps, to other games developing. And again, this is Blizzard. It's one of the most lucrative places to work at, you know, at least by name. They have like they have a massive budget compared to other companies. Final Fantasy 14 budget increased, but even when their budget was low, would provide you way more content than all of this combined in like a single patch.
People seeing features and content and being like, oh, it's nothing.
It is nothing.
I haven't announced what the features and content, you know, is going to be.
But it is nothing.
But I think that there is a reasonable baseline expectation when you look at that roadmap. It's that interesting thing of, you know, are you willing to take them at face value in sort of good faith? At this stage, I am, because thus far they have actually been doing an excellent job.
No, they haven't.
Delivering in things. And
they really haven't, though. They really haven't done anything that deserves like a recognition of their good job. All they did was back away from the stuff that they didn't want to fix, the stuff that people asked for. Basically acquisition of systems after your main got them. No one really cared if their main had to do a certain amount of things to advance their level. Everyone cared that the alts had to do the same exact thing. There was no fucking catch up. That was the fucking problem. Acquisition. Always acquisition. But instead, they just backed away. You know what? Look, we want to make the game take you be this annoying to play. You want the game to not be this annoying to play. So you know what? No feature for you guys. We're just going to make it featureless. So you have nothing to look forward to. Thank you. Thank you, Blizzard. Good job. And then the roadmap has also no fucking features.
Fairly confident that's going to include their roadmap. Of course, it'll really suck if I have to eat those words in 6 months, but
you will.
Why live in a world where we have to second guess everything we do? It's
not much to second guess there.
Also,
not much to second guess there. There's absolutely, it's not even like taking them at face value or not, and giving them like benefit of the doubt or not. This has nothing to do with it. There's absolutely nothing on the roadmap that says they have changed their ways. There's nothing on the in the game right now that says they have changed their ways. Like, there's nothing. All the main issues that still existed with loot are still there.
Now than it was in the past. I mean, the largest criticism one could possibly make is that it can, for a new player, be kind of disorienting. You know, where do I go? What do I do? There's a bunch that I could do. Right? There is that factor.
There's no such factor. Compared to comparing WoW to every other fucking game, I would say it's the least confusing end game of what do I do now that there is. This is like, have you tried getting max level in Guild Wars 2 and you're like, what the fuck do I do at max level? Literally have 1 hour plus guides of what you can do at level 80. In WoW, it will be a 5-minute guide. Oh, you can do do heroics for some gear, do mythic zeros for some gear, go into the normal raid in a pug, start doing mythic pluses, and you can also farm reps if you want cosmetics. Or like buy items off the auction house. That's it. That's the whole content.
Other than that, when I think about leveling up new characters, the things that I want to do in the game, it actually feels like I can just go and do them in a way where I have not felt that in the past 2 expansions, or indeed in many
Again,
parts.
I said in the previous video, there's no point in saying leveling alts is alt friendly, because if it was, then you could level alts in all other expansions as well. If you have nothing to do with these alts once you reach max level, then it doesn't matter that you can level them. I have 11 max level characters. It's fucking obnoxious to even start getting to Mythic Plus on most of them. I got 2 of them do Mythic Pluses, and on the 3rd one I was like, you know what, fuck it. It's just not worth the effort. It's just fucking dumb.
Of Legion.
Wasn't even actually. I didn't even do a Mythic Plus. I did 2 Mythic Zeros, and I was like, fuck it. Like I got 1 item in 2 runs. I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like it's just not worth it. It's like I have to spend so much time just to try and get into Mythic Plus. I won't even be able to. Like I would have to spend. So in the first couple weeks, I played the game per week, probably. I want to say about 60 to 70 hours on my Paladin, and then like maybe 30 hours on my DK, and they were doing 15 and 14 respectively. Something along those lines. Nah, I exaggerated on the... Maybe like 50 hours on the Paladin. 40 to 50 hours on Paladin, about 30 on the DK, okay? When I had to think, that's like, man, I will need to spend like 40 hours, right? Let's say on average, even, you know what, fuck it, 20 to 25 hours on this 3rd alt, just to maybe, hopefully, if I get the RNG luck, to get to anywhere near to where my main and my DK are. I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like it's way too long. It's like I can't guarantee loot. I cannot make a roadmap of like how much shit I need to do in order to get to a certain item level. There's nothing. Everything is fucking RNG. You can have the worst luck, you can have the best luck. Best luck in 10 hours, you get to the plus 15s. Worst luck in 20 hours, you're still doing plus 7s because you cannot get fucking loot.
Is to have one of its strongest periods as a game, like by far. I think the 10.0 is a better basis for the game going forward than Legion was. Because I think that while Legion was
as a basis, sure,
very cool, did have a lot of content.
It was.
I always thought its systems were pretty messy, even from
the systems
start.
were.
I got a lot of flack.
It were, but they were also more fun. They also gave you something to look forward to. Right now, you have nothing to look forward to with DragonFlight. The character you have is the character you're gonna stay with for the rest of the expansion. You have nothing to look forward to, aside from RNG hoping for better loot in Mythic Plus and Raid. That's not a good design. There's absolutely nothing for you to do at max level. That's how bad this game is.
During the testing of that expansion, or shortly after its launch, for criticizing some of those aspects, but I think that, a lot of us who are suspicious over the fundamental designs of Legion, I think we were kind of proven right over the next 2 expansions. And now, I see Foundations be well built. So ultimately then, I do think that this expansion is not seeing the numbers that Blizzard will have wanted. They have not been chest beating about an incredible
because they haven't fixed
number
issues.
of, copies sold through because of this expansion, Tot Shadowlands. You know they would tell us about it because as soon as Shadowlands had good news, they told us about that. And they were, very big announcement. I believe there was a similar announcement with BFA as well, so they've kept it on the hush.
There was.
They've also ran a whole bunch of promotions. Add that to some of the preliminary data we've seen from Raid. It does actually look, everyone, like we're in a strange downturn.
Not strange at
I think
all.
it's going to be okay because the fundamentals are there.
No, I think it's going to be okay because it's World of Warcraft and it still has probably the most players compared to any other MMO. It's just that for now it's going to be okay, but it's like you'll see that the quality of the game will just keep decreasing because the game is not going to produce as many numbers as something like Final Fantasy, as something like Guild Wars 2, just purely from the cosmetic shop. The cosmetic shops in Final Fantasy and Guild Wars 2 are just so much better than what you can get in WoW. So even though I'm not saying Guild Wars 2 is going to make more money than WoW because they don't have a sub fee, but Final Fantasy 14 definitely will because they have a sub, they have the expansion cost, and they have a ton of cosmetics that people are like way too fucking, they want that shit way too much. Okay, so in that regard, I think WoW is going to be a downward spiral, not on just by player base but also by content and quality of the game, and that's how it's going to slowly die for the next 10 years. Also, like, there's nothing really interesting about WoW right now. Like, the story is fucking dog shit, right? So, and I can't trust, even if I want to, I can't trust the developers based on DragonFlight to write a good story. The villains are a joke. Like, everyone right now is a fucking joke. The dragons are a fucking joke. Like, there's nothing that pulls you into the game anymore.
They're just not as
into the world
to as many people. But much like with Mr. Pandaria, I do think that this can build and grow. So let me know then, what's your experience been? What's the experience of your guild been? Comments are down below. That's it for me. See you next time.
The hints we missed, patch 10.1, secret and the mysteries of DragonFlight. Yeah, sure. I had more fun this expect than any other so far. It's like such a bad take. Like, you can't even... Technically, no. I think Legion people had the most fun, even with the bad systems. Yeah, looking into the future, the systems are bad, don't get me wrong. But, like, when they just came out, having that grind to get your weapon upgrade, being so happy when you got that gold fucking upgrade in your artifact weapon, Mythic Plus being a completely new system at that time. This was just like a world quest instead of just dailies. This was like completely like groundbreaking. All the classes were different. They were redesigned from WoD. Yeah. I think it's more casual friendly, which is nice. It is casual friendly. So much so that it's just not friendly to anyone else. The lost trust of the fan base it takes giving to get that back, and Activision is about as giving as a black hole. It's like I want to like it and I want to dislike it at the same time. I'll keep it on the dislike. Also, don't really like this video. I don't think he covers the real point of why the expansion sucks. But yeah, anyways, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Fuck off. I need to stop watching WoW. Just not good for my mental health.